F ゼロは部屋を明るくしてテレビから離れてみてくれたまえ。
僕らは何に夢見てどこへ向かうべきなのか、裏切りや駆け引きの中手にした勝利にどれほど価値があるのか、太陽は断ち切れる夢中を抱えても未来の行方照らし続ける強く儚きものよ、この手を引き導いて真実と呼べる場所であるなら、戸惑い傷ついてもこの地線の向こうまだ答えは見えない。 Searching for the truth.
F-Zero GP Legend, F-Zero The Legend of Falcon, F-Zero Falcon Densetsu. This is one true anime that I could marathon for hours on end, and never get tired of it. This particular anime aired from October 7, 2003 all the way up to September 28, 2004 on TV Tokyo in Japan for a full total of 51 episodes. It was attempted to be brought to life here in America by 4Kids, however, this unfortunately failed. The English translation of this show for the US was cancelled after only 15 episodes. This show did lead to a game as well on the Game Boy Advance, and that was fully in America this time. Continuing on, the studio that put F-Zero Legend of Falcon together was known as Ashi Productions, and boy did they do a fantastic job with it. The anime handles the source material of the game it's based on very well. Every character as of F-Zero X makes an appearance on the show, including the addition of a few new characters, some of which even make an appearance in F-Zero GX, and some unfortunately do not. Anyway, here we have Ryu Suzaku, or Rick Wheeler. Note that I will be referring to everyone by their Japanese names, okay? So, Ryu is a cop that was involved in an almost fatal car accident while chasing down Zoda. Ryu was placed in some sort of cryostasis device and is later brought back to life to the year 2201 to a much more futuristic New York City, or as we know it in F-Zero, Mute City. Ryu was brought back to assist the Mobile Task Force, a branch of secret agents consisting of racers like Jody Summer, Dr. Stewart, John Tanaka, Jack Levin, Mr. EAD, Dr. Clash, and a few others. The goal of the Mobile Task Force is to protect the galaxy from the evil group known as Dark Million, which also has some familiar racers like Black Shadow, Zoda, Octoman, Biorex, Baba, and a few more later on. Now I suppose you're thinking to yourself, what about Captain Falcon? Where's Captain Falcon? Well, Captain Falcon is somewhat of a semi-major character, but when he does show up, he makes his presence known, which you'll see at points in the list. Anyway, I've been rambling, but you get the gist of the plot. It's now time for, out of all 51 episodes, my top 10 favorite episodes of F-Zero Legend of Falcon. Warning, this list will contain spoilers for episodes and the entire series. Don't watch if you want to watch the full series. This episode focuses quite a bit on the two lovebird racers, Super Arrow and Mrs. Arrow. Literally, two lovers and their bird. It starts out with Super Arrow having bad flashbacks of a track that is going to appear in an upcoming race. Despite Mrs. Arrow's encouragement, Super Arrow wants nothing to do with it. So, to help her husband get the courage to go back, Mrs. Arrow heads off to the cold planet to inspect and record data on the track. However, Zoda is there as well and is looking for a treasure. To do so, he gained control of the man-made weather system and is using it to create massive blizzards. But when Mrs. Arrow is discovered by Zoda, he crashes her, much in the same way Super Arrow crashed. Learning that she is far away and in trouble via his Owl's communication system, Super Arrow heads out with Ryu to search for her. Much of the rest of the episode is filled up with the two having no luck finding Mrs. Arrow, as well as Super Arrow's hilarious antics.
寒くないのかよ。
心が燃えていれば寒さなんか関係ない。
Finally, when Super Arrow crashes, again, he discovers his wife nearby. It is a joyous occasion that is then followed by Captain Falcon's most epic entrance yet.
こうなったらみんな揃って氷漬けだ。キャプテンファルコン。これは。なんだ。キャプテンファルコン。
The focus this time is actually the villain Octoman. Being that he is the only F-Zero racer of his species, he's a big celebrity back on his home planet. So when his home planet comes to visit, John Tanaka uses the MTF to make sure that nothing happens to them, which results in many hilarious moments.
なんかよか。バイオレックス。ここで俺のこと褒めるんだろ。ああ、そうだった。褒めればいいんだな。オクトマンはこう見えても手癖が悪いんだ。こんなに手があるからね。冗談に決まってるだろ。
偉大なる英雄さん、こんにちは。
Unfortunately for Ryu, due to past confrontations with the humans in Octoman's species, he has to respect Octoman. However, Octoman ends up begging to Ryu to let him win the next race. As it turns out, Octoman has claimed he won 10 or so races already when, in reality, the number is much lower. Ryu denies the request. Unfortunately again for Octoman, Zoda wants Octoman to assist him in winning the next race so Black Shadow doesn't punish him for doing bad jobs, leaving Octoman to have to choose between work and family. Octoman makes the right choice and decides he wants the victory for himself and his fans. However, Octoman forgets to regenerate his vehicle's energy, which causes it to slow down and for him to lose the race. Or does it?
ダークミリオンは必ず倒します。バイオレックス、ワンダーワスプを潰せ。
What you just witnessed is probably the most amazing win ever witnessed in anything racing. In the end, Octoman pays off any debt he owed to Bart the bartender using his racing winnings, and the rest was given to his fans, who use it to buy all kinds of souvenirs, like this Tanuki? To finish things off, none of the racing winnings were given to Zoda, which makes him furious. But let's just say he's got other things to worry about. Like I mentioned many times in the past, many times being once, Gomar and Shiu are my favorite F-Zero X characters, so it shouldn't come as a surprise that the only episode they appear in makes it on this list. It starts out with Gomar and Shiu announcing their goal to join Dark Million. Their only problem is the way to join is to prove themselves by winning an F-Zero race, but their F-Zero machine only fits one. So naturally they have to use their fraud skills to earn money. On the flip side of the plot, we have MTF member and mechanic Lucy Liberty, getting convinced that she is gaining weight. Overhearing her situation, Gomar and Shiu see their chance to strike, and they convince her to buy a bunch of useless fake items that supposedly make you lose weight. When getting fed up with constantly being tricked, Lucy decides to go find their business and talk to them herself. But when she arrives, she discovers the duo's vehicle issue and, not knowing of their evil intentions or past, decides to help them out. After lots of hard work, Lucy finally succeeds at creating their iconic F-Zero vehicle we know today. After a few confrontations between Ryu and Jack and Gomar, Shiu, and Lucy, it is finally the day of the race, and the Twin Narita works surprisingly well. Gomar and Shiu speed into the front and it looks like they're going to win until... Forgetting that they have a limit of 2 boosts, Gomar and Shiu end up destroying their vehicle. At the end of the race, they are eventually arrested. On a high note though, and even though they are frauds, Lucy stays their friend and promises to fix the Twin Narita while they're in jail. Here we have the main focus of the episode being Falcon's usually thought of enemy, Samurai Goro. Ryu decides to investigate a man named Samurai Goro that stole rare and important medicine for patients like Alias, who we'll meet later on in the list. When he arrives at a bar, a girl arrives as well who claims her mother's diamond was stolen along with Ryu's medicine, and that she will pay with other diamonds to get her mother's back. This catches the attention of a group that supposedly knows Samurai Goro, so they exit, leaving Ryu to keep looking. He's ambushed by a random gang, but saved by a man with a bandana who knows how to find Samurai Goro. Teaming up with this stranger, Ryu follows the group that the girl went with. The duo is eventually discovered, which then leads to a tense battle. Group 1 ends up escaping, but, using the 2 other gang members that show up later on, Ryu and the stranger are able to make it to Samurai Goro's base. But there's a twist. The stranger reveals himself to be the real Samurai Goro, and the thought to be Samurai Goro is a fake. But wait, there's more. You remember the girl looking for her mother's diamond? As it turns out, she or he is actually a member of Samurai Goro's pirate gang. The fake Samurai Goro, known as Bibalin, is defeated along with his gang and base. But then at the end, Samurai Goro makes you question whether he is good or not. He leaves Ryu partially stranded in the desert and makes off with all the stolen goods.
俺たちが見えなくなる頃にそのロープは自然に外れるからじゃあまたね
くそ、薬を取り返さなきゃ。
Except the medicine. It is a well put out story, so in the meantime, enjoy this compilation of Samurai Goro's amazing sword skills.
なんだてめえは。剣の立つ。剣分断。
With this episode, we have to cover a few things first. There are these things called reactor mites that Black Shadow is trying to collect. One inside his Black Bull, one inside Captain Falcon's Blue Falcon, one inside Ryu's Dragon Bird, and one literally inside Zoda, who was banished into this dark, empty area. Anyway, this episode eventually starts before a race when Ryu explains that he's feeling better after having recent nightmares of Zoda, which then leads to this odd exchange between Ryu and Lucy.
よかった。
On the side of evil, Black Shadow presents an army of Blood Falcons he created to fellow villain Miss Killer. Finally, the race is ready to start. However, things aren't quite what they seem. Take a look.
ジョディ、今日は本部長も走るのか？
そんな連絡は受けてないけど。あ、ゴールデンフォックス。
なぜここにいる私のマシンが。ゴールデンフォックスだけじゃない。EAD のグレートスターやわしのクレイジーベアまで。おいらここにいるのに、これは一体。
リュウ、ジャック、ルーシー、何かがおかしいわ。
来たぜ偽物さんたちがよ。
みんなも用心しろよ。
一体誰が何のために。
あなたにしてはいつもと走り方が違う。
After this amazing reveal, Black Shadow makes his appearance and, with the power of his reactor might, creates a warp that sucks Ryu and Captain Falcon and some of the Blood Falcons into the same darkness that Zoda is in. With some new neighbors, Zoda decides to mess with them and creates a fake version of Jack. Ryu, despite it being fake, can't get the effort to kill Jack. Zoda then reveals that he's here, and he does something that will change him for the rest of the series.
いただきまーす。うわー！うわ
After transforming into Hyper Zoda, Zoda proceeds to transform his vehicle into the Hyper Death Anchor. With the power of the reactor mites, Hyper Zoda convinces Captain Falcon and Ryu to help them escape the darkness the same way they got in. So, using the boost fire, all three are able to escape, for better or for worse. As they exit with the knowledge of the more power they have, but they also exit with a new, stronger enemy.
ただいまー。お天道様が眩しいね。
そうだ。
This particular episode starts out with Black Shadow again presenting an interesting object to Miss Killer. The object of interest this time is not Blood Falcon again, but rather Liquid Blood Falcon, where he can morph into whatever or whoever he wants. The main one in particular being John Tanaka's boss, the Chief. Using the Chief as a disguise, Blood Falcon is able to find ways to tear apart the Mobile Task Force, like telling the police that Ryu is hanging out with the enemy and getting him arrested, or by transforming into other Mobile Task Force members and doing terrible, terrible things. The only one to first figure out something's wrong is the MTF's computer expert, Clank. He happens to be peeking into the Chief's room when Blood Falcon replaces the real Chief. Clank tries to inform the rest of the group about what he witnessed, but, of course, no one believes him. The MTF falls into confusion as claims of Jack driving recklessly in the street and Lucy crashing Dr. Clash fly around, despite both of them claiming that they were never doing such things. However, the fake chief eventually disbands the mobile task force, at the exact moment Dark Million invades Mute City. This leads Clank and Jody to both help Ryu break free in order to help them figure out what's wrong. Soon enough, the Blood Falcon reveals his true form, and the group works together to defeat Dark Million's forces as well as Blood Falcon himself. The real chief is eventually found, and he not only undoes the disbanding of the mobile task force, but he also promotes them to elite status. Much like the Octoman's Dream episode, this one is not short on the comedy. In fact, it's probably one of the funniest episodes out there, mainly because it uses the stereotype of women fighting each other when it comes to earning some sort of glamour prize, or in this case being crowned Miss Galaxy, which is achieved by winning an F-Zero race known as the Ladies' Race, the previous winner being Jody Summer. Her, along with Lucy, are representatives for the Mobile Task Force. On the flip side, we have Miss Killer representing Dark Million. Trouble arises when famous female racers including Mrs. Arrow, Kate Allen, and Samurai Goro's wife, Lisa Brilliant, go missing. It is eventually discovered that this is the work of Miss Killer, which leads to Zoda making this snarky but true comment. The racers are eventually rescued by Samurai Goro, and the females are ready to race. However, every racer needs a pit crew, so the obvious solution is to take male racers and dress them up as females. Not only Ryu and Jack, but Octoman and Bio-Rex as well. Before we continue on to what is the most amazing shot in this show's history, I have some quick F-Zero history to give. Mobile Task Force member Mr. EAD, likely named after Nintendo EAD, a branch of Nintendo, has always been assumed to be based off of Mario from the Super Mario franchise. So naturally, when his time to dress up as a female appears for a short time, he dresses up as, well, see for yourself.
Doctor, おいら本当に行かなくていいのか? 君は今回待機だ。そうだ、待機じゃ。せっかく来たのに。
I swear, the people who made this series are geniuses. Finally, the ladies' race is ready to begin. It starts out like your average race, but what happens next is just too hilarious to put into words. So sit back and enjoy this amazing scene in its entirety.
勝負よミスキア。そこまで私をバカにするわけ。私をバカにした報いを見せてあげる。ルーシー、落ち着きなさい。レースに市場を持ち込んではダメよ。これを試せる時がついに来たわ。行け！
それはいけません。レース上で武器の使用は禁じられています。エガンスリバティ失格です。
これでどう？私を本気で怒らせたね。
リサブリリアント失格。早くしまってください。おいジャック、これってレースか？戦争を見て。
何をすました顔してミス銀河宇宙連邦の座は渡さないわよ。 大体愛想も可愛げもないあなたより私の方がミス銀河宇宙連邦にふさわしいのよ。
なんじゃ。大変なことになりました。我々も逃げましょう。女同士の戦いって怖いでしょ。勉強になりましたね。
Taking third spot for my most favorite F-Zero episode also includes my number one most favorite racing scene. The main premise of this episode is that racers Roger, Buster, and Drac are world-famous delivery men. Roger arrives at Bart's Cafe to deliver some rare and delicious fruits to a young handicapped kid I mentioned earlier named Alias. The episode continues for a while with conversations between Ryu, Roger, and Alias. Alias then says that he has an upcoming surgery that he's very afraid of and doesn't want to go to. Knowing that this is a life-saving operation, both Ryu and Roger make a promise with Alias that if either one of them wins the race, Alias will go through with the operation. Meanwhile, back at the delivery service, Roger's partner Drac is being attacked by Dark Million's Miss Killer, and convinced that in order to save Roger from future danger, he must win the next race and give all winnings to Dark Million. And now it's time for the race. This race has to be the most intense race in the series. Like usual, the race starts out fine, that is until Pico starts sniping devices onto all of the vehicles. Seeing the sniper in the distance, Captain Falcon shoots off the track and disappears. Despite noticing that there is a racer missing, Pico lets it go since he did what he was paid to do. Once all the devices are secure on every vehicle except Drax, Zoda in disguise reveals to the organizers of the F-Zero races that the devices are bombs, that if the driver goes above or below a certain area of speed, they will detonate, and the only way to stop this is to pay 10 million credits to Dark Million. The pit crews then inform the racers of the speed limit.
スピードはオレンジ5からオレンジ9までに保ってレースを続行してください。スピードがオレンジ4以下になっても、またレッドゾーンを超えてもマシンは爆発する可能性あり、現在起爆装置を捜索中です。追って新しい情報が入り次第伝えます。以上。
何？
繰り返しパイロット諸君に伝える。スピードはオレンジ5からオレンジ9までに保ってレースを続行してください。
ダークミリオンね、直接レースにまで仕掛けてくるとは。
The security team, with the help of Dr. Clash, are soon able to identify all the devices, yet they still don't know if the threat is real. Soon enough, though, one racer loses control of his vehicle and, well, I'm sure you can guess what happens next. As the race continues, it has led Ryu and Roger, who are determined to win for Alias, and Drac, who doesn't have to worry about the speed limit and tries to convince Roger to let him win. Meanwhile, under the track, Captain Falcon works to find the area in which the bombs are being controlled, which then leads him to a nearby blimp. Finally, when the opportune moment arrives, Falcon launches out from under the track and crashes right into the blimp, destroying the Dark Million robots inside. The bomb threat no longer relevant, the race continues with Ryu winning first, followed closely by Roger. In the end, after scolding Drac, Roger drives Alias and his mom to the place of his operation where he will hopefully get healed for good. This episode is without a doubt the saddest in the entire series. It almost made me cry. But I didn't. Close, though. Close. Anyway, before we tear at your heartstrings, we have to set the plot. Our story begins with female racer and famous celebrity singer Kate Allen seemingly racing alone when she is interrupted by a mysterious person. The stranger, revealed to be Jodie Summer, says that due to recent threats against Kate from Zoda, she will be sending 2 bodyguards to keep watch over her, despite not getting permission from Kate. The 2 bodyguards end up being Ryu and Mr. EAD. Even though Kate wants to know what police branch they're from, she never gets an answer. While the group guards one of Kate's concerts, Ryu finds EAD in some sort of a trance. When Ryu asks what's wrong, it is revealed that EAD, despite being a robot, has a soft spot for Kate's music, specifically the song he is currently watching. Ryu, however, mentions that it feels like there's something missing. This becomes important later on. After the concert, Kate decides to go out for a ride, with the people she doesn't want not too far behind. It is during this trip that she gets ambushed by Octoman and Bio-Rex. Luckily, the mobile task force is there to save her. EAD takes Kate back to her home, and, while surveying the area, he himself gets ambushed as well. Upon inspection, it is revealed that EAD was taken partially apart, and his memory core, which holds everything he sees and hears, is stolen. This leads the group to the only person who wanted to know about the person they attacked, Kate. When confronted, Kate gives back the memory core since she finally knows who's guarding her. Next, Kate has yet another concert, and like last time, EAD forgivingly shows up. It is at this point Kate reveals that she doesn't even like singing anymore, and she always feels like she's being used. This is what Ryu meant when he said something's missing. This leads her to get rid of her bodyguards since she now knows the MTF was just using her as bait to try and catch Zoda. Upset, she leaves once more, and despite her request, the MTF follows closely behind. This is when Zoda shows up and ambushes Kate yet again. Right as he is about to strike, EAD gets Kate out of the way, and the mobile task force chases Zoda away. While they are alone, EAD says that since he's a robot, he is used to being used, however, he will never use others. This is when Zoda makes his return. And this next scene is just too emotional to put into words. Please grab some tissues and watch.
戻ってきたぜ
イエディ、どうしてそうまでして私を。
おいらケイトと約束した。身を挺して君を守る。それがロボットであるおいらにできること。やあ！てめえ！
イエディ。バカなロボットね。
お前のために EAD は
本当バカなロボットよ。
Well, thanks to the brilliant Dr. Clash, Mr. EAD is rebuilt. Unfortunately, as you saw, the one thing that can't be replaced, his memory core, was destroyed, leaving him with no knowledge of what had happened, and he won't know that because of his sacrifice. Kate finally got her wonderful love for singing back. The end. Warning, the following playthrough will without a doubt reveal many secrets through many episodes as well as the series as a whole. Do not watch if you are watching or plan to watch this series. You have been warned. Please continue with caution and enjoy the rest of the video. Of course, who didn't see it coming? It's the final episode, the final lap, and a lot has happened. So quick spoiler run-through. Black Shadow is finally going to go through with his plan of collecting the reactor mites. To do so, he captures Hyper Zoda as well as Miss Killer, who is actually Ryu's past girlfriend, Haruka. This makes Ryu, joined by Captain Falcon, go to fight him. As they race around while Black Shadow tries to lure them into this reactor thingy, Dark Million is wreaking havoc across the galaxy, and the Mobile Task Force is trying to make their way to help Ryu. With the help of Samurai Goro and friends, the Mobile Task Force is able to pass through Dark Million's blockade. Meanwhile, inside Black Shadow's base, as Ryu and Black Shadow duke it out, Captain Falcon is able to rescue Haruka, from her frozen in carbonite state, and hands her off to Jodie Summer. Oh, and before I forget, Captain Falcon was revealed a little earlier on to be Jodie's who she thought was dead. He's also the who appears in some form or another in every episode. Anyway, back to Ryu's struggle. Captain Falcon shows back up and informs Ryu that driving in the reverse direction of the reactor's spin will cause it to slow or stop its progress. However, since Ryu's machine now contains both his own as well as Captain Falcon's reactor mites, it just might have enough power to destroy it. So Captain Falcon takes Ryu's place to fight Black Shadow, as Ryu attempts to destroy the reactor. Back outside, the classic moment where the main villains consisting of Octoman, Biorex, Baba, and the Skull realize that Black Shadow's plans are too dangerous and they don't want to die, so they forfeit and basically abandon ship. And now it's the climax. Starting to lose hope, Ryu is failing at stopping the reactor. That is until he gets remarkable encouragement from none other than Hyper Zoda? Yes, that's right. From inside his cage, Hyper Zoda reminds Ryu that he should give it all he got for Haruka. This apparently is just the boost that Ryu needs. He gives the mightiest boost fire and destroys the reactor mite, freeing Zoda, I might add. But it causes a massive suction that pulls Black Shadow and Captain Falcon towards it. Black Shadow tries to escape, but as we all know, nothing with Captain Falcon in it is complete without the legendary... So, in the end, Captain Falcon gets killed and the name and everything related to him is carried on with Ryu Suzaku. Clank grows up and receives the Dragon Bird, and the villain you learn to love along the way returns. So there you have it, undoubtedly the greatest anime series in existence. It's a shame it didn't last long in the US, but comparing it to the few English episodes there are online, I definitely prefer the Japanese voices and names much more. In fact, I love the show so much I actually named some of my Pokemon I talked about after characters from the show. My Kangaskhan Ryu was named after Ryu Suzaku, and my Chansey Dream was named after a girl from an episode I recently watched around the time I named it. But that concludes my list. Sorry if I spoiled stuff for you, but hopefully you will go out and enjoy the series as a whole. So thanks again, and I will see you next time.
どんなに小さな存在